Okay, everyone. So let's begin. Thank you again, everyone, for taking time out of your day today. Spend an hour with us. We have a great presentation. We're going to be covering some important topics regarding affordable multifamily housing, as well as some local law 97 that's very much relevant right now. With us today, we have KC3 Kinetic Communities. And if anybody is wondering, this presentation is being recorded, and a copy of the presentation and slide deck will be made available to everyone after the presentation. So let's go over first our agenda. We're going to go through some brief introductions, and then we'll get right into AMEEP incentives. This is through the NYSERDA program. We'll talk a little bit about local law filing, which is happening right now. And we'll talk about steam system retrofits. We'll move on to some case studies, and then we'll wrap it up with a Q&A session at the end. If you have any questions, please feel free to put them in the chat, and we will go through them at the end of the presentation. So a little bit about us first, Building Efficiency Services. We help buildings, high-rise multifamily commercial buildings, reduce their carbon emissions, retrofit, and that improves tenant comfort and reduces energy consumption. We also do electrification solutions and work with all local laws to help you achieve compliance and offset some of those out-of-pocket costs with the available incentive programs. We've saved New York City over 3 million therms. We are also participating contractors with Con Edison, National Grid, NYSERDA, and an Innovator Award from New York City Accelerator. With us today is Kinetic Communities, Marissa Morris. Marissa and I go back a while now. Marissa was an outstanding account manager with New York City Accelerator, now back with the Kinetic Communities team. And they have a really, really fantastic mission. They are connecting divested communities with affordable energy. And we'll hear a great presentation about how they help buildings do that. So we're going to get right into the AMEEP incentives. Marissa, please take it away.
Yeah, thanks so much, Ari. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining us this afternoon. As mentioned, my name is Marissa Morris. I work with Kinetic Communities Consulting. We work in that kind of intersection between affordable housing and sustainability. One of the programs we work super closely with and we help buildings through is the New York State Affordable Multifamily Energy Efficiency Program, or the AMEEP program for short. So I'm going to just be talking all about the different incentives that are out there to help get this work done. And if you have any questions specifically about the program, feel free to drop them in the chat, and I'm happy to answer them at the end. So to talk a little bit about the program, it is a joint effort and collaboration between NYSERDA, the New York State Energy Research and Development Agency, I believe is what NYSERDA stands for. I always forget. Yep. And the different utility programs in New York. So that includes Con Edison, National Grid down here in New York City, but it also runs through the entire state. So if you are any neighborhoods downstate and any neighborhoods upstate, can take advantage of the program. To talk about AMEEP building eligibility, this is for multifamily properties. So these are any properties that have 5 or more residential units, and they need to be a current utility customer. Also, specific building characteristics will determine what kind of incentives you may be able to receive. There are affordable housing requirements, and that's where our team can come in to see if your housing is considered affordable for the program and if you would be able to take advantage of these incentives. There's also some things like measure eligibility, installation timelines, and the extent of the renovation or intended use that can help determine some of those incentives as well. But there's a ton of different things that you can tap into. So if you are interested in this program and you are not sure what kind of money you would see back, that's where our team can come in and help connect those dots for you. So these is a list of some of the accepted documents through the program. Everyone defines affordable housing very differently, so the landscape can become very confusing. So on the program's website, you can see all of the different documents that are that the program will accept and consider your building affordable. If you are not sure, how to find these documents, or you need help really determining if your building would be eligible for the program, whether you are a building owner and operator yourself, or even a contractor and you are trying to figure out affordability of different properties, that's where our team can also come in and be able to look into these documents for you, since most of them are publicly available, and we'll be able to help you figure out if you are eligible for those incentives. So the AMEEP program is broken down into two different pathways. There is the comprehensive pathway and the non-comprehensive pathway. The comprehensive pathway is kind of has how it sounds. It is for those comprehensive, large or whole building retrofits. This offers a higher incentives, and there is possibility for a mid-project payout to help pay for the project and move the project along. This is a point-based incentive structure, so it must meet a 100-point minimum to be able to tap into the comprehensive pathway incentives. So we'll talk about that in a later slide, but every single measure has a point value associated with them. So if you meet that 100-point minimum for your project, then you can tap into these higher incentives. This is based on a incentive per dwelling unit basis, and energy audits are not required to apply, and incentives are available to offset the cost of the audit if that is something that you need to do for your project. There's also the non-comprehensive pathway. So this is kind of the a la carte menu of the program, where if you are doing one thing up to, under that 100 points threshold, you can absolutely still take advantage of incentives, but these are determined on an equipment installed or energy savings basis. So definitely different than the comprehensive pathway, but we can talk about what those incentives look like. So here is the point system that I mentioned. As I mentioned, every single measure has a different point value associated with them. And depending on how intensive the measure is, usually they're a higher incentive value. So measures that are worth 40 points are things like window replacements, insulation and boiler replacements, whereas all the way down the line, measures that are 5 points would be something like a boiler clean and tune, or in-unit direct installs, things like that. So every single measure has a different point value. If your scope covers enough that it would meet that 100-point threshold, then comprehensive projects would see $1,500 per dwelling unit, and that would be a set incentive for your project. If your scope reaches up to 150 points, then you could see up to $2,000 per dwelling unit for your project. So this is the highest incentives you can see for any type of energy efficiency work for affordable housing. If you're trying to do certain larger scopes that would meet that 100 or 150 point threshold. So if you're working on any of those types of projects, let me know, because we can definitely help you through the application process. And it's a little bit more intensive than the not comprehensive pathway. So here is at a glance what the process would look like for of the comprehensive pathway. The very first phase is applying, so that's checking your eligibility, choosing a contractor, and submitting an application package. That's where our team will come in to check if you're eligible. Also, if you need help choosing a contractor, we'll be able to send you a contractor list and go through that whole process with you, and then submitting an application package. So that would be getting all the documents together and submitting that over to the program. Then it's the finalize, design, and initiate project phase, which you would receive your preliminary incentive offer letter and finalize the new system, submit cut sheets, saving calculations, etc. Then it's executing the project. And you go into pre-construction, you'll receive that notice to proceed, install all of the equipment, and then you'll get that optional mid-project payment if needed. And then move into phase 4, which is the complete project phase, where you submit your completion paperwork, you do the post-inspection and the final engineering review, and then also receive your incentive payment at the end. It's also important to note that for the AMEEP program, the incentive can go directly to the contractor, the implementing contractor, or it can go to the property manager that is applying for the incentives. So however you want the incentives to be split up, divvied out, that's how you can have it divvied out. It can go either to pay the contractor directly, or it can go into the property manager's pocket after paying for the project. So here's some examples of some of the non-comprehensive incentives. There is a very long program manual list of all the different incentives that are out there, but this is a great example to show how it's very different incentives than the comprehensive pathway. For the comprehensive pathway, as I mentioned, is on a per dwelling unit basis, whereas for non-comprehensive incentives, it is based on either energy savings or the equipment installed. So for example, a hot water boiler, you would save up to $8 per MBH. Or if you were doing something like LED lighting, if you were putting in tube lamps, it would be $15 per lamp that you would receive back. So if you're doing any type of work, if it has anything to do with energy efficiency, take a look at the program first, see if it's covered, because there can be some sort of rebate out there for it, whether it's that higher comprehensive incentive or a lower incentive like this, which is still great because it's free money that you can get back for your project. One offering that I like to highlight every single time I talk about AMEEP is there are free in-unit measures that are offered through AMEEP. So this is completely at no cost to any property managers. You would just need to apply for it. You can receive free in-unit faucet and shower aerators, and then also free in-unit LED light bulbs. So if that is a thing that you would like to take advantage of, definitely let us know, and then we can send over that in-unit application for you. You would fill it out, and then you would get scheduled within like a month or two for the work to be completed at your property. So there are a couple of different limited and fast track offerings through the program right now that I'd like to highlight. And if any of these apply to your building, let us know, because these are things that are a little bit more limited. The AMEEP program, of course, will be ongoing, but these are offerings that are happening right now that is a little bit of extra incentive on top of what's already being offered. So the first one is Con Edison's Gas Fast Tracked. This is specifically a new program offering that's focusing on gas savings on for a specific building stock. So they're looking for buildings that are that have 50 units or less, that are built 1940 or before, so pre-war buildings, and have an eligible Con Ed gas account. These incentives there are a couple eligible measures under this. So that's boiler clean and tune, replacement, energy management system upgrades, and pipe insulation for the buildings. These are things that you could see that are a better rate than the non-comprehensive pathway. So if you're still not looking to do a huge project, but you are doing some gas work in your buildings, let us know, because I can help you apply for the gas fast track offering where you can get a little bit more money that way. There is also Con Edison's multifamily building neighborhood program incentives. This is targeting specific neighborhoods that have a very high electric usage that they are looking to save some energy. So this is for specifically neighborhoods in Queens, in that Jamaica area. If you are any projects, if you are in that qualifying territory and you have an eligible Con Edison electric and gas account, then these are additional lighting and non-lighting electric measures that you can see additional incentives for. So they are really incentivizing people to do upgrades out there, whether they're lighting or HVAC upgrades. So if that is something that you are planning on doing at any of your buildings that would be in that general area, let us know. That's something we can also help you apply for. And this one, I think, was just raised from the last iteration. So there's even more money in this program now. So let us know, because we'll be able to help you apply for that. And then the last offering I wanted to highlight is Con Edison's Local Law 97 limited time offering. So this is specific for affordable housing. If you are trying to comply with Local 97, which I'm sure Art will talk about that a little bit more in the next section. But if you're trying to comply with Local 97, you're doing the prescriptive measures, this will give you even more incentive to do those measures. So this is specifically for Con Edison gas and electric customers that are between 25 and 75,000 square feet that are looking to do those PECMs. The incentives are based on the number of units and energy savings, and then also the PECMs that are chosen. So these are the available incentives under this offering. These are higher than the non-comprehensive the non-comprehensive current offerings. So if you are looking to do the prescriptive measure specifically, you wanted to take advantage of incentives, you might meet that requirement, which is that 25 to 75,000 square feet requirement. You could see even more money to get these done. So if that's something you're interested in, for sure, let us know, because then we'll be able to help you apply specifically for this limited offering, and move you down that pipeline. But I think
Okay.
with that,
Yeah.
that's it for my
Yeah.
section. I'll
Thank you.
hand it back over.
Thank you very much, Marissa.
No problem.
Yeah, first of all, Marissa's contact information will be up on the last slide. We'll have that during the question and answer session. And I could just talk from personal experience working with Marissa. Really tremendous attention to her clients, making sure that she's holding their hands every step of the way, and really a phenomenal resource if you're navigating any of the local laws, and especially any of the incentive programs. We have done a number of AMEEP programs ourselves, BES, Building Efficiency Services. We did a large portfolio using the comprehensive pathway. Can be quite complicated, and it would really help to have someone help you navigate that. Really fantastic programs as well. Thank you, Marissa. So let's move on now and talk about local law filing, which of course is, we are in the middle of filing season. First, I want to bring up the timeline so we have a quick glimpse of where we're at. The BEAM platform, which is the platform used by the DOB for submitting your local law 97 submissions, that began in the beginning of March, and the initial deadline really began May 1st. As well as the local law 84 year benchmarking deadline, that was also May 1st. There is, though, an automatic grace period that's extended. So if you haven't gotten your paperwork in yet, you still have until the end of June without having to ask or request any kind of extension. And then there's a pretty easy extension to be granted if you're not going to make that June 30th deadline, to extend it till the end or towards the end of August, till August 29th. If you're filing, of course, this year, you're 97 and 88 together, that grace period till the end of June applies to both. So Local 88 also had a deadline of May 1st, but that together as a bundle now has a grace period till the end of June. We can help you apply for an extension if it's required, or help you, of course, with your local law 97 filing as well. The process for filing, if you're not familiar with it yet, you need to really start out on DOB Now. Make sure that you have your email addresses set up correctly. There's space provided for an owner's representative, which may be a management company or such, and a service provider, like we would be a BES. And of course, you have your Energy Star portfolio manager, where you are been filing your energy usage and benchmarking. Now that has to be shared together with BEAM, and that way there's a seamless connection between the three platforms. The process will always start by paying your filing fee on DOB Now. We'll talk about that more in a second. So some tips now. We're very much in the middle of the season, and we've been doing a bunch of filing for our clients, and just want to go over some things that you may or may not be aware of. First of all, the building must first sign up at DOB Now and create a New York City ID account. The BEAM account must be created using one of the three email addresses identified in the DOB Now associated with your particular building. So you can actually go on BEAM and create an account with any email address, but if the email address is not the same as the one on DOB Now, you will not be able to see the building's profile. So it's very important that you create the BEAM account with one of the three email addresses you identified in the DOB Now account. The portfolio manager, the building data is going to be connected with DOB Now and shared with BEAM. Okay, so that way the information gets transferred through that pipeline so you can complete your filing. You do not actually need to share your portfolio manager with BEAM if you are going the Article 321 pathway, which is for affordable housing or houses of worship. Right, that has a separate 13 measure compliance pathway. So here's an interesting one with the covered buildings list disputes, right? Now they're going to be filed in Beam. And what happened with us, we had a couple of clients where they were showing up, let's say, on the 321 list in 2024. And then, 2025, the DOB published a new covered buildings list, and now they were showing up as Article 320, which is a completely different pathway. And our first set of instructions were to send an email out and, with documentation regarding our dispute, and that would be your DHCR annual summary and your rent roll. And now, since Beam has been opened, you are now meant to open a ticket in Beam to if you have any disputes with the CBO. We also had another case where it was showing up on a covered buildings list, but it was just under it was about 23,500 square feet, which is just under the local law 97 threshold. Again, that requires opening of a ticket now on Beam. The reporting platforms, this is important to know, the reporting platforms sync data overnight. So you have to plan enough time to make sure, don't wait for June 30th and plan to file your submission in one day. It cannot be done in one day because overnight the data syncs from the platform. So you pay on DOB now, and then that information then will be kicked over, and you'll have to wait probably a day or two until you can finally get everything collected up on Beam and be able to follow your paperwork. Leave enough time for that.
Jeez.
And finally, on as far as your filing fees, with your filing your local law 88 together with your local law 97, there is not a separate filing fee for local law 88. That one fee for local law 97 covers both of your filings. This is a quick screenshot of the welcome screen to the Beam platform. If you haven't seen it yet, you can go on here and create your account. Word of note again that it has to be one of the email addresses that are currently in your DOB now if you are going to be able to see the building's profile once your Beam account is set up. Here's a knowledge base screen from Beam. Just wanted to point this out because if you see in the left-hand menu, you can open up a new ticket, and this is where you would file your disputes. If you have any dispute about the status of your building in the covered buildings list, you open up a ticket here. And we also did get guidance that if you open up a ticket, and there's probably going to be a lot of tickets that the DOB is sorting through, and you are not anticipating to get a resolution to your ticket before the filing deadline, that you should file your local law 97 as you expect it to be. So if you expect it to be 321, file it as 321, even though it might be showing up now on the covered buildings list under 320.
Have you ever heard of this thing called the AMEEP
Uh,
program?
Eli,
NYSERDA?
Eli, if you can please mute
Yeah,
everyone until.
AMEEP.
Yeah, hi, sorry about that. If we can please save our questions for the end, we're happy to go through all of them, put them in the chat. Thank you, Eli, for that. And yeah, if you are unsure how to navigate any of the platforms with the DOB, please feel free to reach out, and we're helping buildings now throughout New York City do this. We're happy to help you as well. A quick mention about penalties. It's always good to have just a refresher on this. Keep this top of mind. By failing to submit your reports, or regarding Article 320, there's a different structure of the penalties. You're going to pay, by your area for filing to report monthly, and then you're going to also pay a separate fee if you are over your carbon emissions limits. Regarding Article 321, there's a $10,000 penalty for either failing to submit or failing to comply. There was some uncertainty in the early on when this was first announced, but the DOB now maintains that they have the discretion to assess these penalties annually. So it's not a one-time penalty. Let's do what we can to avoid penalties and bring our buildings into compliance. And just a final word on, let's say you are facing a penalty and you're not prepared yet, a building really has two responsibilities. They have to file and they have to meet the emissions limits. If you see that your building, for some reason, is not going to be able to be in compliance by the deadline, there are penalty mitigation opportunities. That means you're going to file your emissions report, you're going to take care of your local law 84 benchmarking and your local law 88 lighting, and then prepare a decarbonization plan. I'm not going to get into the plan here tonight. It's beyond the scope. But if you have any questions about how to do that, or you're looking at facing penalties, please feel free to reach out and we will help you create a plan for that. So I want to now move on to steam system balancing. A lot of the measures that we're going to cover here and talk about were covered in Marissa's presentation on AMEEP incentives. And a lot of them also show up in that 13 measure compliance pathway for Article 321 in Local Law 97. So off the bat, why is steam systems, why are they so important? Because the carbon emissions in New York State, buildings, large multifamily buildings in general, they're responsible for most of the energy consumption in the state. And on the other side of that, they also really present the greatest opportunity for energy savings. By running an energy efficient system, you not only reduce costs, but also improve tenant comfort. So a lot of common problems. We're just now really heading to the end of heating season now. But if you've just gone through winter and your building has experienced some hot and cold apartments, some tenants opening windows because the unit is overheating, you have clanging or hissing pipes, leaky radiators. These are all symptoms of an imbalanced steam system. Right? Constant tenant complaints is also a big one and gives management nightmares at night. A lot of the measures to fix these things, right? Master venting, TRVs and orifice plates. We'll talk a little bit more about orifice plates on the following slides. Steam trap repair. Steam traps typically we're talking about now larger buildings, usually over about 7 stories. They have steam traps on each individual radiator that will fail about every 3 to 5 years, and every single steam trap in the building then will need to be replaced. Boiler controls, pipe insulation, boiler clean and tune-up. That's something Marissa touched on earlier regarding the fast track incentives, and steam system infrastructure upgrades. So all of these items, most of them are going to show up on the 13 prescriptive path for Article 321. Also, all great incentives available for all of these. And taking a comprehensive, holistic approach to your steam system really has the opportunity to bring down your energy costs considerably. Some of these common area and in-unit solutions, we talked about steam traps. They need to be replaced every 3 to 5 years. TRVs are individual temperature controls for your radiators. They were required in larger buildings, in two-pipe buildings. That's over about 7 stories or so that were going through the Article 321 pathway. Pipe insulation, making sure all your steam and hot water pipes are properly insulated. Orifice plates. Now, orifice plates, we've been doing a lot of these projects lately, some big projects with the New York City Housing Authority, especially. What orifice plates do is that they modulate the amount of steam that's entering the radiator. And you can kind of see this from the graphic there next to it. That's like an image taken from a heat gun. And you can see that what happens is if most steam systems were originally designed to overheat. So the radiator gets really full, really hot, and that causes not only the apartment to be overheated and makes tenants uncomfortable, but creates a tremendous amount of energy waste. Orifice plates are engineered to have the right amount of steam enter the radiator. What that does is, first of all, brings down energy costs, but very importantly, it eliminates the need for steam trap repair. Right. So instead of that radiator constantly overfilling and the steam hitting the steam trap constantly, wearing it out, The orifice plates will allow the right amount of steam in and therefore eliminate the need for that costly steam trap repair every 3 to 5 years. Finally, master venting. These are these big vents that are in the common area, in the boiler room, throughout the building. They allow steam to pass through the system easily and reach all radiators quickly. BES offers a turnkey solution for local laws. We come down and do a site study. We'll prepare a full report and proposal for you. On the left-hand side, you can see a snippet of what a piece of our Article 321 survey would kind of cover, going through all the, showing you where you're in compliance, showing you where you still need to do the work, and then proposing the work as well. We'll help you navigate the incentive and programs. We work together with Marissa on a lot of those. She's a phenomenal resource. You can reach out to her directly if you have questions about the incentive programs. We then work on the installation. We help with the pre and post inspections, making sure everything goes through smoothly, and then of course regulatory filing. We're helping buildings with not only Local Law 97, but Local Law 88, which is for lighting, Local Law 84, and that is for your benchmarking, and of course, Local Law 152, which is getting a lot of inquiries now about that. That's regarding your gas system. We'll talk about that more in a moment. So at the end of 2023, we began a dedicated plumbing department over at Building Efficiency Services. We have master plumber on our staff, and we really handle all kinds of plumbing work. We do service calls for some of our clients. We have regular maintenance contracts. So if one of our larger developments wants to have us on speed dial, if there's a leak or any kind of emergency, we can be there in short order. Reach out to us if you have any plumbing needs. We're happy to assist. And part of that plumbing is Local Law 152. And that requires properties that have natural gas connections to have a gas system inspected every 4 years. We have a master plumber on our staff, which is required for compliance to do the filing and paperwork. We can also help with correction with any violations you may be having. I want to briefly now move on to a couple of case studies before we finally open it up for some Q&A. So here's an oil fuel building and that we helped. This is in Queens, actually. And the challenge a little bit with oil fuel buildings is that they don't have the same access to incentives that gas fuel buildings do. Most of the incentives are offered in conjunction or through Con Edison and National Grid, and they are gas companies. If your building is oil fueled, you still have an opportunity with some incentives on the electricity side, but not so much with the gas side. And but we did pretty well with this building. We saved them over 3,000 gallons of energy and 15% reduction in their energy costs. This is a building or a development, I should say, that we recently were wrapping up, Nitro Patterson. In this particular project, we did an orifice plate job. Really phenomenal results, 0 tenant complaints. We had tremendous success working with management to get access to all the units, and they saw almost 18% energy reduction throughout the project. I want to also just point out quickly what some of that work will look like. We at BES are using paperless reporting. What you see on your screen right now are screenshots. This is from that Patterson job we just showed you a moment ago. And all our field technicians, as they're doing the work, they're logging everything in an app with photos and detailed documentation. And then this is then relayed to management in real time. So we're cutting down on unnecessary waste with paper in the field. It's a very efficient system, and it allows management to know in real time exactly the progress that's been going on at each of the buildings. So I want to open it up now for some Q&A, and I'll pop up the contact information on the screen. You can go ahead and screen capture that. Again, we'll be sending out a copy of the slide deck and a recording as well after the presentation. We have with us on the call Eli, Senior Project Manager over at BES. He's going to go ahead and take a look and answer or read out the questions.
Hi, thank you, Ari, and thank you, Marissa, for that great and informative presentation. The first question that I have is from Gabriel. Ari, do you know what the filing fee is for LO97?
Offhand, I think it's $215 if I'm not mistaken. Marissa, do you know that offhand? But I believe that's what it is.
That sounds close. I don't know offhand. I do know depending on the report, there is a different like filing fee. They're not like incredibly different. But yeah, depending on what report you're filing, there is a different filing fee. But I think for Article 321, I can look it up and put it in the chat for you. But offhand, I'm not sure.
I think that's what it is. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But
Thank you. Thank you both. Okay, next I have from Atticus. So for areas that do not use Con Edison, what is the best way to hook into AMEEP? For upstate, it looks as though Central Hudson has their own page.
Yeah, so each utility will have their own page for the AMEEP program. It's all a joint effort between all the different utilities and NYSERDA. So you might see that there's a different page on each utilities website. However, it is all the same program, and there are going to be different incentives depending on where your building is. So I would say if you are looking to tap into those incentives, you're not under Con Edison or National Grid, you can still reach out to our team because we work with the team upstate that implements that program as well. So we can point you in the right direction for, the most accurate information depending on where your building is.
Thank you.
Perfect.
Yeah, and there's another question there.
Yeah, there's a follow-up. Can this only be used for existing buildings, or does it apply to new builds and historic rehabs as well?
Yeah, so these are for retrofits for existing buildings. For under AMEEP, there are other incentive programs for new construction. I know specifically with Con Edison, because that's the one that I deal with most. Con Edison has incentives specific for like heat pumps and that sort of thing for new construction projects. It really depends on like the scope that you're looking to do if it's new construction. I think you said there was another question here for what was the other building stock that you had mentioned?
Historic
Or-
rehabs. So existing, but being upgraded quite a bit.
Yeah, so that you can absolutely use AMEEP for, since they are all existing buildings would be able to fall under AMEEP, depending on, as long as it meets like those affordability requirements, you should be able to use the incentive program for, even though it is like a historic rehab, even if you're doing like a full like gut renovation, I've seen those go through the comprehensive pathway. So yeah, it just kind of depends case to case. If for some reason it wouldn't fall under AMEEP, there are normally programs to all of the other utilities as well that address different types of energy efficiency upgrades, whether it's, electrification or any of those other things. So depending on what your scope is and what type of building it is, we'd be able to let you know best of like what the best incentive to pursue is.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
And then I had a couple of questions that were sent to me directly. Ari, if you don't mind, can you please elaborate on how exactly orifice plates will save energy for a building?
Yeah, sure. Number one is, I would say right off the bat, it eliminates the need to replace or repair steam traps every 3 or 5 years. And if you have, if you manage a building where you've had to do that or do it every few years, you know how expensive and how time consuming that can be, not only because of the cost of the material. You need to then have a crew go around apartment to apartment. You need to get access to apartment, schedule appointments with tenants, which is also a lot of times very challenging, working around tenant schedules. By using orifice plates, you eliminate that entire cycle of having to replace steam traps, which is a huge savings right off the bat. Secondly, it's reducing the energy consumption for the building itself by eliminating overheating. And again, people say that a lot of these issues stem from steam systems, which have been around for maybe 150 years or so. That a lot of the steam systems in New York were designed around the time of, when the Spanish flu, about 1915. And at that time, conventional wisdom was to leave the windows open even in the winter so that the disease, the virus wouldn't spread, and to make sure that the apartments were heated even though it was so cold outside. When they would overheat the apartment, the radiators were meant, or almost designed, it was a feature, not a bug, to really be overheated. Now, of course, we want to keep the windows closed, double pane windows, keep as much of that energy inside throughout the winter. And because of that, a lot of times now our radiators are actually overheating our spaces, and that is wasted energy. So by sending the right amount of steam into each and every radiator in the building, you're reducing your energy consumption and reducing your costs. Eli?
Oh, sorry, I was on mute. Thank you for that beautiful description. Thank you, Harry. Next I have is my building is a small 10-unit HDFC, and we're looking to take advantage of various incentives to run our building less expensively.
I can take that question. So for if you're looking to tap into the AMEEP program and you already kind of have a scope of work, or you understand what you may need to do, I would say that you can absolutely take advantage of that. HDFCs are considered affordable housing under the AMEEP program, and you can take advantage of it since it is it's any buildings that are 5 units or up. If you're looking for a place to start, I would say that there are a couple of different things that you can do. One of the things that I've seen people start with is getting some sort of energy audit. So there is a program, I believe it's called the Low Carbon Pathways through NYSERDA, and I'm happy to send more information about that program. That is, or like the Flex Tech through NYSERDA, you'd be able to get a subsidized energy audit through there just to see where your building is, assess it, and see what the best options are. So you'll be able to connect with different engineering firms to get a report done for your building to kind of see where it is. I see you put another message in the chat saying, as I understand it, Con Ed wants us to decommission one of our pipe gas-fired boiler in order to get a 30% rebate on heat pumps. What do we do in case of sub-zero temps or a Con Ed outage? That's a really great question. Are you, for a follow-up, is your building currently on gas, or is it on oil number 2 or number 4? Because I know in New York City, there, of course, is the local law, I can't remember which one it is, that is decommissioning any boilers that are on oil number 4. I don't believe there was one for oil number 2 just yet. Excuse me. And okay, Con Ed gas, gotcha. So if you're currently on gas, there isn't any rules or regulations that you need to come off of gas. However, if you would like to look into heat pumps, there definitely is incentives through Con Edison for that, through the Clean Heat program. They're also maybe stackable depending on what your scope is. So I would definitely say it might make sense to kind of do that energy audit to see where your building is and see what the best case scenario is, because it might mean something like installing retrofits versus actually going into electrification and doing a full electrification, because I do understand that is a very real concern, if it does get very cold or if there is a Con Edison outage. So I would absolutely suggest seeing what kind of both options would bring you. And then is FlexTech required for NYSERDA incentives? It is not required for NYSERDA incentives. You can still tap into any of those incentive programs without a FlexTech audit, if that's what your question is. However, you can use FlexTech providers, and I believe BAS is a FlexTech provider as well, for any of those NYSERDA incentives.
Thank you, Marissa. And then
Yeah, of course.
we had a follow-up. Add an HPD building approved scope of work, including oil to gas conversion, is currently pending an HPD closing date, which may take another 6 to 8 weeks. In the meantime, the contractor who won the bid is not receiving any advance payments, and as a result, is not proceeding with any of the work, including submitting the oil to gas conversion application. Please note that HPD has requested AMEEP application approval as a preferred item to be included in the closing packet. Given that the building has not yet submitted the oil to gas conversion application, is it still eligible to apply for AMEEP in order to secure the incentive?
Yeah, thanks so much for that question. So if it is, is it, if the application has not been submitted yet, I believe that they would still be eligible. The only thing that might hold it back is like if any work had been done. But I'm not sure. It doesn't sound like any work has been done just yet. If the work has already been done, they can't issue retroactive incentives. However, if the work hasn't been done yet, but the application isn't submitted, then that's something, of course, we can absolutely help with. If that's something you're trying to move along, let us know and we can send over the building information. We can help like draft up that application and send it in to the program and let them know to expedite the process. So that way, all the timelines line up. But let me know if any like work or anything like that has been done already. If it has, then it might be a little more tricky. If it hasn't, then you're still in good shape and we can submit that application for you.
Thank you, Marissa. And then a couple more is that you had mentioned in your presentation to submit an application package. Just wanted to ask what documents are required for that application package.
Yeah, for sure. So under the application, normally what you would need to submit is the signed application. Also, normally the program would like to see the proposal for the work. So it would need to be like the signed proposal between the building representative and the contractor, and that we'll need to submit as well. Anyone that the incentive is going to, we would also need that W-9 for that company. So it would be the building representatives, like their W-9 form, or the contractor, if they're the one that's selected to get the incentive, we would need their W-9, and then the affordable housing document. So normally it's those four. It's the affordable housing document showing your affordable housing, the W-9 for whoever's receiving the incentive payment, the signed application, and then the signed proposal.
Thank you. And then just to follow up on that, being that we're close to the deadline for filing, about how long do you think the approval process is for the AMEEP incentive?
Yeah, so are you asking in like once those four documents are submitted, how long does it normally take to like be approved and like a committed project, or how long like would it take for the project to be completed?
No, to get the approval process once those four documents are sent in for.
Yeah.
Yeah, go
So
ahead. Excuse me.
yeah, of course. So to get the project approved, normally it doesn't take a very long time. Excuse me. To get the project committed take a very long time. Once all of the documents are handed over to the program, they say that all these documents look correct and everything's good. And then it's assigned to the contractor on the program end. Then normally we're all set there and the project is technically like committed, right? To get to actually beginning construction, sometimes that can take a little bit of time if there's some back and forth on the pre-inspection. So there is that there is that stage right before construction where the program administrators will go through all of the documents and take a look. The contractor would like to submit things like cut sheets, more information on the equipment that's going to be installed, etc. And then the program would need to approve that. Sometimes I've seen that stage take a little bit of time if there needs to be more information or if they're asking for, a little bit more back and forth between the contractor and the program. However, if everything is pretty buttoned up tight, I would say it only takes a few weeks from the application package submission to construction beginning. But it really depends project to project. And it depends on, as I said, like that kind of back and forth between the contractor and the program administrator.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
Mhm.
And then lastly, Marissa, term carbon credits has been thrown around, and someone was just following up. Has KC3 started discussing with buildings for any of the carbon credits that are available?
Yeah, so it really depends on the option, like the where the building sits at the time, right? So what the buildings that we've discussed carbon credits with are buildings that are really, really close to their limit. And if it would make sense to go down the route of looking into carbon credits. I will say that, it's not necessarily, it's necessarily a cheap thing, right? And sometimes for buildings, they want like that permanent fix and they don't want to be having to pay for something or like pay to be under their limit um by using carbon credits. So I think it really depends on where you would like to put your money into. But would you like to invest in the building and do like energy efficiency work to be able to bring it under that limit? Because there is a little bit of leeway in time, for example, for the affordable housing under Article 321. If you're doing the 2030 pathway, if you have a plan to be under your 2030 limit by 2030, then they'll give you until 2030 to complete the work, right? So it really depends on where you're sitting right now. If you're very close to the limit, you're not interested in doing more energy efficiency work to be under it, then of course, like that might be a good opportunity and pathway for you. However, if you want to continue to do energy efficiency work, but there's not enough time to get it done before the end of the year, but you're really close to that 2030 limit and that's what you're interested in doing, you can still file your report and show your plan, your like decarbonization plan that Ari had brought up earlier, of how you plan to be under 2030. And they will grant you that extra time to be able to do it. So yeah, I would really suggest to look at where you're at and then also look at what like your long-term goals are, and see from there, does it make sense to pursue more energy efficiency work to get you under the limit, or does it make sense to offset that your emissions by using credits? It really depends building to building.
Perfect. Thank you
Yeah,
so much, Marissa. Thank you for those detailed answers to all the questions that were thrown your way.
of
That
course.
wraps up our Q&A. Ari, back to
Yeah,
you.
Marissa, you've been super popular today, getting all the questions in, but really, she's super knowledgeable, great resource, really can help you navigate the incentive process, applications, post-inspections, pre-inspections. We work closely with Marissa, and definitely reach out if your building is looking to do energy retrofits or upgrades. So let's wrap it up. Thank you, everyone, for joining us today. Really appreciate it. A copy of the deck, a recording will be sent out. Again, the contact information is also up on the screen. Last chance to take a screen capture. We look forward to seeing you again soon at our next presentation. Thank you, Marissa. Phenomenal job.
Thank you, everyone.